Well, welcome, ladies, and welcome to our webinar on how to get a year's worth of results in just 90 days. So let's talk about this. Let's dive on in. Again, those of you that were calling in, I was just making note for you to connect to the audio piece as well, but we should be all squared away. It doesn't look like anyone is having any problems hearing, so great. All right, so just real quick, I know that I recognize a lot of the names on who signed up for this webinar, but a lot of names were new to me. So just real quick, you may be wondering, who is this Claire character? And in corporate, I'd worked 15 plus years in corporate training and coaching, and actually got a master's degree in adult training, and also dipped my toe. My first entrepreneurial experience was about 10 years ago with Mary Kay as a sales director. And what I loved about that, it's a wonderful organization. It just wasn't for me. What I loved about it, however, was that I had a whole unit of women that I could encourage and motivate and train and sort of simplify the business building process for, but that was not a money earning activity in that business, right? That's where this business, my true passion, came about. And I coupled all of that, my career experiences, with some life experiences. And when my son was just born, so this was about 8 years ago, he just turned 8. He was about 3 months old when I was diagnosed with super advanced breast cancer, like super advanced. It was huge, it spread, not great chances of survival. But however, that was one of the biggest life blessings, as weird as that might sound to some. It was a huge life blessing. I mean, it gave me this burning desire deep in my belly to become the wife and the mom and the woman that I always wanted to be. And when I hear myself say that, like my old self, like my corporate self, you know, the one that was working her way up the career ladder, and that almost sounds archaic to me, but it's so who I am. It's so who I am. I just want that time and the energy to enjoy life, right? To grow into that Christian wife and mom and woman that I want to be. So it really was it was you know, God knows what he's doing. And that burning desire has created the passion for this business. This is how it came from. I mean, it came from me realizing, gosh, life is short. What is it you really want to do, Claire? What are your God-given talents, and how can you actually use those to encourage and help others? So I've truly decided to dedicate my life to help other women and moms who want to do the same thing, who want to get back in the home. And for me, I was the primary breadwinner, right? And my husband's a teacher, and I love that he's a teacher here in North Carolina, which I think we're probably the second lowest paid state. So they make hardly anything. I mean, they were making hardly anything, and in the last 7 years, they haven't even received a single increase. So for me to get in the home, I didn't have the luxury of, I mean, we needed income. We needed significant income, and we needed my income to be higher than my husband's income. That's what we were used to. That's just, so I know some people are like that, right? You want to get back in the home, and you want to do it in a way where maybe you're not just making, you know, $500 or $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month. I mean, you want it to be a significant income. So whatever your reasons are for wanting this type of business, for wanting the freedom and the time to be with your family and to grow into the person that you want to be, whatever those reasons are, I am so passionate about helping you get there. And my differentiating factor, my forte is to work with service-based women entrepreneurs. So many of you, I'm sure, are service-based, meaning that you are ultimately packaging your time and your expertise and your knowledge. You're packaging that and you're marketing it to folks to help them solve problems. So with coaches and consultants and healers and mentors, and I help them figure out how to do that. How do you authentically package and market their expertise, and how do they do that in a very family-focused, you know, super streamlined, highly profitable way? Now, if you are in product sales or direct sales, this webinar is perfect. I mean, this is going to be for anyone who is in business, absolutely. How do you plan out the next 3 months so you get more done in 3 months than most people do in an entire year? But my focus, who I specifically mentor, is a service-based woman entrepreneur, and my forte, again, is to help them get those results in the quickest, easiest way. So I have what's called a 12-week fast pass mentoring, and just sort of my passion is to get a heck of a lot done in part-time hours. Many of my clients, and probably many of you, you don't want to work 50, 60, 70 hours a week, right? Maybe you want to work 20, 25, 30 hours a week. So how do you get a heck of a lot done in part-time hours to have that incredibly profitable business? So that's sort of a passion of mine. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. Let me just real quick make sure no one's having any audio problems. Nope, it looks like we're good. All right, so can you relate? This is Taking Forever Frida, where she's like, oh my gosh, this is just taking forever. I really would have thought that I would be where I want to be by now. I really would have thought that I would, figure this all out, that I'd be having that consistent income. So maybe you're taking forever Frida. Or maybe you're multitasking Martha, where you're like, oh my gosh, I just don't know what to do first, right? There's so much on my plate. I don't know what to do first. Do I do this, or do I do that project, or do I go to this networking? What do I do first? So many times you might feel like her, multitasking Martha. Or, oh, poor overwhelmed Olivia. Look at her. Do you feel like this at times, where you're like, oh my gosh, I am so overwhelmed. I am almost paralyzed. Like, I just don't even know what to do. And feel free in the chat function, go ahead, if there's any of these people that you relate to, share it with the group, please. So if you relate to, let's bring her back up. So this is Taking Forever Frida, or Multitasking Martha, or Overwhelmed Olivia. Or this is just going to be Comfortable Connie. She's like, I'm just going to hang out behind the scenes, right? Let me just get my website nice and pretty, work on my business cards, right? Do all that, organize my office again. Let me do all the behind the scenes stuff, and not the stuff that is really the money earning activities in our business, right? A lot of times people do, we just sort of hang out behind the scenes, and we're more like Comfortable Connies, and then we're wondering, wait, I've been working, I've been doing work, why am I not seeing the consistent income in my business? Or maybe you could relate to Idea Ida, where she's like, oh my gosh, I still want to do that. Oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Let me do that. Oh my gosh, let me do that. Right, this shiny object syndrome. And what happens, I'm sure we're all prone to it. I think entrepreneurs, generally speaking, are prone to it, because to be a successful entrepreneur, we are a pretty creative bunch, right? Becky, thanks for sharing that we're all of these from time to time, right? Absolutely. So we're prone to being creative, and we want to be creative. We want these ideas to keep coming, but how do we keep them from getting us completely sidetracked, where we do a little bit of everything, but maybe nothing to full completion, or nothing to the best of its ability? So, and like Becky said, we probably can relate to all of those at some time in the entrepreneurial journey. And our challenge or our opportunity is, we want to use these creative strengths to our advantage, right? But let's lasso it in a bit, right? Let's lasso it in. The reason that overwhelmed Olivia is probably feeling overwhelmed is because she does have high hopes for her business, right? She wants to get significant results, and she wants to get them now, and she feels like she's been working, and she's doing what she feels like she needs to do, and she's overwhelmed. So that's part of being an entrepreneur. And like we said, the idea Ida, you've got all these creative ideas. So again, let's utilize and capitalize on these strengths that you all have been given as entrepreneurs. I'm sure it's how you are hardwired. So again, let's just lasso that in a bit and use it to our advantage, instead of getting us sidetracked and tired and drained and broke. So what are we going to cover today? This is for the webinar that you signed up for. We talked about, how do we do this? How do we easily and strategically plan out your next 90 days so you can achieve a year's worth of results in just the next 3 months, by being super focused and by knowing what you're going to do and what you're not going to do? And how can you actually achieve more by actually doing less? I mean, like, really, when we start taking things off of our plate, we figure out what's going to be on our plate, take some other things off of our plate and be okay with it, and just focus on what's on our plate and do those things incredibly well. That's what we're talking about. That's when the magic happens. And then how do you keep that laser focus and say goodbye to that shiny object syndrome that we're all so prone to? And then this is a big thing that I hear from a lot of my clients is, okay, I'm sitting down to work, but what should I be working on, right? We want you to confidently know what you should be working on, and to feel like you're more in control of your day. That your day is more led by your agenda versus other people's agenda, which we'll talk about what I mean by that. But ultimately, I'm sure we all want to get more done in less time. And like I said, so many women I know are like me, who they want to work part-time, but they want to do a great job with their business, right? They want to have a great, legitimate business that's profitable, where they're truly helping people. They're getting such, purpose from it. but we also then want to have plenty of time off that we're enjoying our life and our family and, you know, our own self-care. And so that's what it's all about. So let's talk about this. All right, so why, oh, look at the person in the middle. Oh, man, I feel bad for her. She is treadmill Terry. Treadmill Terry. She's like, I'm running, I'm working. Oh, my gosh, I'm always so busy. I'm so busy. But she doesn't always feel like she's getting where she wants to be. She feels like she's getting there, but maybe there's a better way. So if anyone can ever relate, which I'm sure we can, because of the environment that we're truly in, right? It's very fast-paced, high technology. We're in the information age, right? So there's tons of information about what we should, you know, quote unquote, should be doing, that we could be prone to be treadmill Terry. And it just leaves you tired and frustrated and doubting, being like, can I really do this? So the reason that many women entrepreneurs are prone to becoming treadmill Terry are for three major reasons that I want to talk about today. And the first, if you look on the left-hand side here, let me see if I can get my annotation tools out here. Here we go. All right, the first thing is that many times we just don't know where we're going, right? We just get on this treadmill and we just start running. We have a vague idea, right? We want a great business. We want to make more money. But we're not super clear on exactly, like pinpoint, exactly where am I going and how do I best get there before we get on the treadmill and start running. Or we get on the treadmill and, you know, at least we start taking some steps and then we get clear on, well, where am I going and how do I best get there? So this is huge and very, very simple and one of my favorite things to do. The second thing is, now if we have our priorities, we know where we want to go and how to get there. Well, how do we actually use sort of these bigger, you know, more strategic thinking or larger goals and projects to actually guide what we do each week, right? We want that to be guiding our work each week so we're consistently making steps and progress towards our goal. So that's huge. And then third is having some place to store all those other creative ideas. So let's say that we figured out where to go, right? We figured out where to go the next 3 months, and each week we're working towards those goals and those projects. Like I said, as entrepreneurs, we're still going to have those ideas throughout those 3 months, and we want to, as much as possible, have those ideas not get us sidetracked, right? We stick with our plan when it makes sense. I mean, there's definitely times where we need to be flexible with our plan, absolutely. But the majority of the time, we just want to have a place that all these other creative ideas that we store. It gives us peace of mind, and then we come back to working on whatever we were working on, and then when it's time to create your new 3-month success plan, I want to have all those ideas handy, right? Let me look through all those ideas. A lot of those ideas will probably fuel my next 3-month success plan. So it's not an easy fix. That's why there's 3 things here that I want to talk about. Oops, sorry. Sometimes that happens with my annotation tools. There we go. All right, so let's start with the first one. No clear direction. Where am I going and how do I best get there? All right, so it starts with what I call your year's success vision. And like I said, this is one of my favorite things to do every single year, the beginning part of the year. Some people might do it at the end of the year, right, planning for the upcoming year. I do it at the beginning part of the year. And like that push pin on that map, I want to just get crystal clear on where do I want to be at the end of the year. And when I say where do I want to be at the end of the year, well, let me come back here for a second. My success vision is my definition of a productive, joyful, blessed year. And I don't do my planning in a vacuum, right? I prayfully plan. So I get God involved in my, where does He want me to be at the end of the year? Where do I want to be at the end of the year, right? It's not something that I do in a vacuum. But I get really clear, and it's my opportunity to really to dream. And the way that I do it is I picture my future self, right? So let's just say when I did it at the beginning part of this year, it was January of 2014. So I would sort of see my future self, right, Claire, the end of December 2014. And I'm looking happy. Oh my gosh, I am like glowing. I have had the best year ever. And again, when I say quote unquote best year ever, For everyone, our definition of success is different, right? Each year for myself, my definition of success is different. And sometimes I don't even want to use the word success because maybe there's some negative connotations with it. But I'm using success, and I'm using it, and again, in a way for me to feel like I had a joyful, productive, blessed year. What does that look like? And it's like my future self is describing what life looks like in the future, like as if it's already a done deal. And when I do it, if you see here, this is my plate, right? So these are the areas that I believe are important to me personally. And when I create my success vision, that it's not just about business. It's about all aspects of my life. And I could probably do a whole hour-long just on the success vision, but we're not going to do that today. But it is important for you to figure out what's on your plate, right? Because we can't do it all. Ladies, we can't do it all. But we can figure out what's most important to us, and we can do those things incredibly well. Because if we just keep adding and adding and adding things to our plate, we just spread ourselves too thin, right? We do, and then we feel like we're not doing anything incredibly well, and we just don't feel like we're getting the results. So I'd ask you what your categories might be. I don't know if I can have the pen function still. No, it's not working. That's okay. So I only have 2 categories for business. I've got business, which is, okay, what does my business look like? How well is it doing? Maybe the hours I'm working. Just where is my business? What's the future state of my business? And then professional development is, who am I as a businesswoman? What does that look like? Who am I? What new success habits have I gained, or technical expertise? It's around maybe my success habits. It's around how I'm running my business, like who I am as a businesswoman. And then I've got these other 6 categories: family and relationships, right? What's my relationship with my spouse and with my son and my family, and who I am as a friend? What about health and wellness? What does my health and wellness look like by the end of the year? What would a joyful, blessed, productive year look like for me? Maybe it's, that I'm fit and trim at a size 140, and that I'm eating fresh fruits and vegetables. I'm enjoying going to the farmer's market. Like, what is that? And this is so different than New Year's resolutions. These are not resolutions. These are where you're going to be at the end of the year. And then throughout the year, we just take step by step by step to get there. Personal growth, how that's different than professional development, is that's more about me as a woman, like, me, my hobbies, that I'm feeding my own, that I'm filling my own bucket. Maybe it's you've been wanting to learn how to speak Spanish, right? So you learned how to speak Spanish, or you attended a dance class, or you've done some pottery, book clubs, faith or inspiration. What about that? Your personal time with God, that you're part of a small group at church. You found a church that you feel, that you love, and you've gone on a mission trip. I don't know. What is that for you? What about finances, for your family finances? And community and making a difference. So are you volunteering? Like, for me, it is important that I volunteer in Dylan's class. And I volunteer at least once a month, and I generally volunteer on Fridays, which are my more open, flexible days. But it just shows you that, again, every year my success vision might be different. Some years, that's going to be important to me, and I'm going to make sure that volunteering in Dylan's class is on my plate. And there's other years where it might not be, right? And I'm going to leave all of those wonderful volunteering opportunities to all the other parents, right? So again, I get really clear on what it is that is super, super important to me. All right. So this gives you an example of a spreadsheet that I do. So this just shows you one category, right? Business. And I actually create 3 descriptors of my success vision. And it's just real descriptive language where I could really paint a picture. So I create 3 descriptors in each category. And then every 90 days, I create a set of goals or projects or deliverables. And I sit down at the beginning part of the quarter and say, okay, now what? Over the next 3 months, what are some things I'm going to do specifically, some deliverables, some projects, so that I can get to my success vision by the end of the year? And here's a great example. This is something very similar to mine. And just so you get an idea of how I do these descriptors. So the first one, it says I'm easily averaging $10,000 to $15,000 profit every single month. The women I'm mentoring are getting incredible results. I'm able to offer such personalized attention and helping them do amazing things. I officially become highly sought after, and I have a steady stream of new ideal clients who want to have sales conversations with me. So that's a part of it. It's not a goal, right? It's where I'm going to be at the end of the year. That's going to be my reality, that I'm saying that. And the other thing I have is I'm delivering super great content and keeping my community engaged, thankful, and they're actively spreading the word about me. So I have 5,000 on my list and on Facebook, and it keeps growing and growing. And then last I've worked into a 10 to 2 schedule, super part-time. I'm truly living a freedom-based lifestyle. I'm living my dream life and my dream business. So that's what I talk about a success vision. It's you just describing in real descriptive words where you're going to be at the end of the year. And then I get strategic and I say, okay, now what? What can I do over the next 3 months? So and the way that I do this on my spreadsheet is I list the goal. It's not that I necessarily need to have one goal in each category. I'm not very structured like that. It happens to be that I actually had 2 goals that were focused more on aligned with increasing my list size. But what I had is we did a January giveaway event and I added 1,000 people to my list. So it gives you an example of and I'm listing it again as if it's a done deal. So let's talk about that though. That's probably a big question for people. Well, how do you know what goals to do? So, but it starts there, right? It starts with figuring out where you want to be at the end of the year and then get really good at seeing your success vision as a done deal. And you saw the way that I described it, and I'm going to open up the chat function for a second too, that feel free to chat any questions you have about this, about your success vision. So again, I have 8 categories. Let me go back. I have 8 categories on my plate, but it starts there. You figuring out, are these the right 8 categories for you? And then I do 3 descriptors in each category. So when you see my success vision, if it's 8 categories and 3 descriptors, my success vision is 24 statements, where I really paint the picture of where I'm going to be at the end of the year. And then I get really good at seeing it as a done deal. The reason I have these earbuds here is I've actually recorded an audio where I, just in a very casual conversation with myself, I'm just describing what life is going to look like at the end of the year. I'm just describing my success vision. And I listen to it over and over and over again. It really helps to serve as your beacon in the storm, right? And there's times when you feel completely overwhelmed, you remind yourself, okay, look, I can't do it all, but let me do what I said I was going to do incredibly well. Let me keep my eye on the prize. Let me look back at my map, right, that push pin on the map, and that's where I'm going. So things that are getting me in that direction, it makes sense for me to do. Things that are not getting me in that direction, let me take off of my plate. And you can imagine how listening to your success vision over and over and over again, how it really helps to keep you focused and motivated and inspired. It's incredible. But then we got to think about tactically, right? Then we're like, okay, I know where I want to be at the end of the year, which is powerful in and of itself. Please, ladies, that's huge if you simply did that. But then we want to get tactical, right? We want to figure out how to get there. But it's not always a science. I love, the Google Maps or Siri on your iPhone. If you're getting directions to somewhere, she'll show you, well, this is route A and this is route B or route C. They're all going to get you to your final destination, but there's just different routes. So a lot of times we just got to pick a route and go with it. And sometimes mid-course we change routes. But how do you know what route? Let's talk about that. And I love this visual. Let me actually see if there's any questions about, no. Yeah, please. So again, please feel free to post any questions you got about success vision. I'd love for you guys to keep this visual in your mind of this bridge. And I like to see that at the beginning of the year, I am at the beginning of the bridge. And at the end of the year, I want to get to the end of the bridge, right? The end of the bridge is my success vision. And all I want to do is close the gap. There's a gap, right? There's a gap between where I'm at and where I want to be. And every year, even when I have a phenomenal, let's say, phenomenal 2014, in 2015, I will create a new gap for myself, just by definition. I'm going to create a new gap because in 2015, I'm going to go through this process again, right? And at the beginning of 2015, I'm going to assume I'm at the beginning of a new bridge. And then by the end of the year, I want to get to the end of the bridge. And throughout the year, I'm just closing the gap. And we have a choice. We can close, and first of all, knowing that there's a gap, I know that that just creates a feeling of uncomfortableness for many of us, right? Because we just know we want to get to the end of the bridge now. I just want to get there now. So, and that's just a feeling of uncomfortableness, right? Because we're not where we want to be. And we're going to alleviate that gap. We're going to make that gap smaller, one of two ways. The first way, which is how I recommend that you do it, is we're going to close that gap by taking steps across the bridge. Even if they're baby steps, even if they are imperfect steps, we're just going to put one foot in front of the other. Unfortunately, what some people do, because that gap just seems so big in their mind and they don't see it as baby steps, just consistent step after step, even when we don't know what step to take, we just take a step. Unfortunately, what so many people do is we just sort of sit down at the beginning of the bridge. And our end of the bridge, right, our success vision, it just sort of shrinks. And we're like, oh, I don't really need that. Do I really need to make that much? Do I really need that? Oh, and their vision just becomes smaller. So they're still at the beginning of the bridge, but their bridge just becomes smaller. So again, to close the gap, I'm going to encourage us to go with option A, where we take steps, consistent steps across the bridge. So that's what it's about every 90 days, right? So you've got your high-level strategic thinking, which is your success vision. Where do I want to be at the end of the year? Then you're going to break that down. Every 90 days, I create a new 3-month success plan. And I say, okay, now what? Now what? What are some things I can do over the next 3 months to close that gap, to get me where I want to be at the end of the year? And then we're going to talk about in a minute, then we want to bring the high-level strategic thinking down to our day-to-day decisions, right? How do you keep the goals front and center? How do you keep asking yourself with each goal saying, okay, now what? Now what? What are the very next steps I can take to move this goal to completion? And then how do you actually bring that down to what you're working on in the week is actually directly aligned with your goals. So we're going to talk about that. But again, a lot of people struggle with, well, what should I work on, right? There's so much that we could do in our business. And it's not about just doing what we're most comfortable with, right? We talked about Comfortable Connie. It's not just about getting your website perfect and your business card and your tagline. And it's not just necessarily doing what everyone else is telling us we should be doing, right? You need to have a blog and you need to be on Facebook. It's about strategically figuring out what your business most needs. So I'm going to walk you through the strategic process that I take, the simple questions I ask myself every single 90 days. So I'm going to want you to brainstorm. Go ahead and pull out a sheet of paper. I was going to say a sheet of pen, a sheet of paper and a pen. And I just want you to jot these things down because these are the questions I ask myself. The first thing I'm going to ask is, I'll ask myself, are there any unfinished loops? Like anything that's been nagging at me, just like unfinished business, right? Like maybe you're like, oh, I've been meaning to get an e-newsletter out, or oh, I really just want to finish, this project, or gosh, I've got this Facebook business page, but I'm not posting on it, and it's just nagging at me. So anything that's been nagging at you, because that is draining so much more of your creative energy than you even know. So that's always a great place to start. I'm not saying that that's going to be a goal. We're just thinking of potential stuff that can then feed into a goal. And that's always a great place to ask. Anything that's been nagging at you. Okay, the second thing, and this is huge, is we always want to clear up what I call your sales and marketing funnel or your profit funnel. Because we always want to be making sure that our business is running like a well-oiled machine. And we're going to want to see there's probably parts of your profit funnel that are not even existent. And if they're not in existence, it's really difficult to have a highly profitable business. And or some of you have all parts of your funnel, but there's places you can repair it some, like streamline it or maximize it. I can tell you I have a fully functioning sales and marketing funnel up and running. Yet every 90 days, I want to relook at that because there's absolutely ways for me to streamline, maximize what I'm doing, like do it better, right? Do it more efficiently. And some of you might want to know what is a profit funnel. So let me share that with you. I wish my annotation tools were working, but they're not. So I'm just going to sort of point to you where I'm at. But this is a sales and marketing funnel, and there's 3 main parts to a sales and marketing funnel. And what we essentially want to do is we want every month, right? My goal is every month to have at least 100 new hungry ideal leads that have been introduced to me, that have been added to my list. So we want that, right? We want a steady stream of new hungry ideal leads. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done first, right? You need to know, well, who's your ideal client, right? Where are they hanging out? But ultimately, it's about having a marketing plan and working your marketing plan. So if you don't have that, if you don't have a marketing plan, I generally recommend for my clients that they've got 3 core marketing strategies that then they flush through and they maximize those 3 strategies to the fullest. So they know what to be doing in marketing, like what should they do every week, every month. So jot that down. If you don't have a marketing plan, if you're sort of doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, that could be a great place for you to have a commitment for your 3-month success plan, is to create a marketing plan. Or the middle part, so when I was talking about having, want at least, 100, 200 new hungry ideal leads on average every single month coming into my business, then the critical thing is the middle piece of your funnel, which is a consistent keep in touch strategy where you're deepening the relationship with your list. Right? I always like to say that I'm dating my list. There are some people that I meet and they want to get married right away, right? It was perfect timing. They were looking for a mentor and they start working with me in my Fast Track Mentoring program. There's some that now's not the time, or they just need to check me out, right? See if I know what I'm talking about. See if they like me or not. And then what do? We date. I show up in their email inbox every Thursday with my friendly email where I'm adding value and I'm giving them tips, right? I've got free articles, I've got free audios. I'm giving them tips and I'm deepening that relationship. So if you don't have that, if you don't have a consistent keep in touch strategy, jot that down. That would be a great place, a great goal and project for you to work on the next 3 months. And then, so let's say I've gotten lots of new ideal leads, right? They're on my list. I'm dating them consistently. Well, then, in order to have a profitable business, we need to be converting them, right? I need to have, as a business owner, we want to have those offers that, what I call an offer that sells itself. Meaning your ideal client's like, really? You can help me with that? Great, let's start working. So sometimes there's an issue there. Maybe your offers are not irresistible to your client, or maybe you're not even having, maybe your offers are more like coaching, right? On your website it just says that we'll talk once a week and it's $100 an hour, right? That's not even an offer. That's a really hard sell. So there could be work around that, around your packages, around your offers, around having a sales conversion, right? So you've got all these people on your list. There's got to be some way to convert them to be a client. It's either through the written word, right, a sales page on your website that really does the selling for you. And most websites, the sales pages are not doing the selling for you. It's not built with the science of the sale behind it. Again, a lot of times it's more of the logistics, coaching, and we're going to meet this many times, and it's just, that's not going to sell for you. Or many times it's requiring a sales conversation, right, where you just hop on the phone with another individual and you talk. So you need to have a right sales conversion, and we want those to be fully functioning, right? That our sales pages are great, that we're confident with our sales conversations, and that we've got these offers. So again, any place where it might be broken or non-existent, jot that down. Again, that's a great place for you to start with your 3-month success plan. All right, so unfinished loops. We want to bring in the money, right? We want to get our sales and marketing funnel running and flowing well. And then the last thing I'll ask myself, what about the way that I've been working? Have any of my work habits been tripping me up? Are any of my systems broken? Have I gotten in some bad habits? Because the way you're working your business, oh my gosh, that is huge. The sales and marketing funnel is huge too, right? But that's the technical part of your business. But the way that you're working your business, your habits, it really comes down to that. So ask yourself, maybe how you've been managing your time, or how organized you are, or if you've been, processing your stuff, or if things have been overflowing, right? Your email inbox is overflowing. Your papers and your receipts are all over the place. You've been getting things off of your mind and into the right spot? Are you planning out your work, or are you living in reactive mode? And how about how you're managing your finances and the paperwork of your business? So jot down if there's any work habits that you know have been tripping you up that you want to take a look at. And then from all of that, so let me go here. So from all of that, when you jot that down, again, these are the 3 magical questions that I ask myself every single 90 days. From there, plus the other place I would look at, remember I was saying how throughout the 3 months that I'm working a plan, I want to be saving and storing any of the other creative ideas that popped into my mind or that I heard about. So I'd also want to look there. What were the other creative ideas that I just said, this might be something I want to work on, just not right now because I've got a plan and I'm going to work this plan. So from there, that's going to feed into your 3-month success plan. Those 4 to 6 projects or deliverables for you to be working on in the next 3 months. And it's going to be different for everyone, right? So it's not a one-size-fits-all goal process. For some of you, truly, the next 3 months should be focused on just getting your business off of life support. Like if your business is not bringing in the money, we got to get off life support. We got to figure out some way to get you working with clients ASAP. So that would be a priority. It's nearly impossible for us to give the best to our clients when our business is on life support. Or for some of you, a lot of times, I was saying how Comfortable Connie just wants to do behind the scenes stuff, right? And Comfortable Connie is always organizing her office and she's on top of her email, right? That's not always the best place to be. But for some of you, if you truly feel like this individual here, it just might be that makes sense, that you focus on just getting organized once and for all over the next 3 months. Because if this resembles your office at all, I'm sure it's nearly impossible to be creative. It's nearly impossible to be focused. It's nearly impossible. For some, that makes sense for that to be a focus. And for others, some of you might be, your business is highly profitable, right? It's making $10,000, $15,000 a month, but you are drowning. You're working like 80 hours a work week. You're waking up in the middle of the night being like, oh my gosh, did I forget to do such and such? And you know that you cannot continue at that pace. If that's you, then it might make sense that the focus over the next 3 months be about getting some help, getting some systems in place, getting these things automated, streamlined. That could be a focus of yours. But really, again, it's just to pick her out. So what I do is I brainstorm, right? I go through those 3 questions and I brainstorm without I don't beat myself up, right? I give myself a whole bunch of grace. And I say, you know what? I get a do-over the next 3 months. I get a do-over. Let me create a success plan. So let me brainstorm all the things, all the ways to improve. Let me take a look at all the creative ideas I've been having recently. And let me create a plan. And let me just pick her out, A, B, or C, whichever one just feels best to me. Whichever one just makes sense because it feels right, and I believe that it will get me a step closer to being where I want to be at the end of the year. So some of you might be wondering, well, when you say this, Claire, a 3-month success plan, what are you talking about, or how many are you talking about? Well, if you remember my plate, right, I have 8 categories, but I only had 2 in business. So I'm creating my 3-month success plan around my business and my professional development. So I create generally about 4 to 6, and you can call them goals, projects, priorities, commitments, whatever you want to call them, but 4 to 6 real deliverables, right? This is work, this is activity that I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to pick the ones that just seem the most strategic. They make sense, and they're strategic. Why? Probably because they've been nagging at you, or because they're going to bring in the money because you're going to work on your sales and marketing funnel, or you're going to work on some of your habits that have been tripping you up and keeping you stuck. And again, ones that you're excited about. And limit any, well, I really should do this, or I've got to do this. That's a lot of times setting us up for failure. Pick ones that you're excited about that make sense. Pick a route that you think will get you where you want to go. And remember that your goals that are part of your 3-month success plan, it's all about the activity that you're going to do. So your success vision, right, what I started talking about at first, that's focused on where you want to be. But your 90-day goals talks about how you're going to get there, right? The work that you're going to do to get you there. So just a couple of thoughts on goals, because some people are like, but Claire, I don't like creating goals. What if I don't achieve them? My 2 cents is, and there's times when I fall short of my goal, absolutely. And do I feel bad? No, I don't. Because I feel like, as long as I kept that goal front and center, and each week I was working towards that goal, right? And I was saying, okay, now what, now what? If I fall short, I don't feel bad. I don't. Because I look at my progress, I'm like, oh my gosh, but look, look how close I came. That's huge. It's so much more progress than if I didn't have a plan that I was consistently working on. So it's just a mindset shift. I love Mary Kay Ash's quote that we fail forward, right? So even if I fell short of that goal, I'm still like 90% there or 75% there. That's huge. That's so much more than if I had just stayed where I was at, like most of us, treadmill Terry, right? And I'm just running, but I'm not really getting anywhere. So I don't mind. And then some people might say, well, what if I lose motivation for a particular goal, right? It's part of my 3-month success plan. It felt right. I would say, then change it. I'm not such a stickler. I'm not this goal-setting master. I'm more like, okay, we know where we want to be at the end of the year, and let's use our goals to help us get there, to figure out what makes the most sense. If you lose your motivation and it just doesn't feel like the right goal, then why keep it? I'm not one that says, but it was in your plan, you should still do it. That doesn't make any sense. Now, with that said, if every 3 months you find that you keep doing that, right, you keep just changing goals and changing dates, that's a whole other issue. That's more, again, the shiny object syndrome where, you're not working your plan. Or some people might just say, I don't like goals. So again, call it whatever you want. Projects, commitments, deliverables, but find a word that you feel comfortable with and a process that you feel comfortable with. Again, I'm not all about it needing to be perfect SMART goals. I don't know if anyone's ever heard the analogy of SMART goals. I mean, it makes sense, but I never want this process to feel forced or artificial. You're just taking steps across the bridge because it's the simple things done consistently that brings us success. It could be a very simple planning process, and you just do that every 3 months. Ladies, that's huge. Just having a plan for 3 months that you focus on, that is huge. You'll get off the treadmill and you're going to take steps across that bridge to get where you want to go. Okay, so that was the first huge piece, right? That there's no clear direction. Where am I going and how do I best get there from treadmill Terry? And I'm going to go into the next one. Feel free to chat. If there's anything that was unclear about that, feel free to chat. And I keep closing it. You might see I keep closing it, opening it, because when I have it open, it comes over the slides. So but I'll keep opening just to see if anyone has any questions. But the next thing then is using then these priorities to consistently guide our work each week, right? We don't want it to just been this wonderful exercise that we went through, right? We got this vision, we have this vision board, we've got these goals, and they sit in a drawer somewhere. No, we need them to actually guide us when we're working each week. So let's talk a bit about that. Because that's what it takes, right? It takes this consistent effort. It takes keep taking steps across the bridge, week in and week out. So for a lot of us, we need accountability to get across that bridge, right? Sometimes it's a coach, maybe it's a mastermind group, or you can find an accountability partner. For some folks, they need to sort of be rewarded. They almost need that carrot being held at the end of the bridge. When you do this, you're going to have a reward. Or for me, I know a lot of people are, so ask yourself, do whatever it takes to take steps across that bridge. But for me, it's just, the consistent effort is that I'm working off of my goal list every single week. And for me, what is a reward in and of itself is that I like to be super focused when I'm working, because when I stop working, right, when my son gets here and his bus comes at 3:30, and I also watch one of my neighbors, so I pick up the 2 boys from the bus, I want to be done with work. Really just clock out, if you will, and not have anything nagging at me. So that feeling in the evening or on the weekends, when I just get to enjoy, that is huge. Okay, that is huge. So for me, that's reward. But it takes consistent effort. So again, figure out for you what's going to keep you taking steps across that bridge, even when you're not sure of the steps, even when the step didn't give you the result that you expected. Just keep taking steps. So again, let's talk about this. How do we take this high-level strategic thinking to the day-to-day decisions. First of all, it's about figuring out some type of organization model, because ladies, life is going to keep coming at us faster and faster and faster and faster. So we can see that as a negative, or we can also realize that there are simple organization models out there. And, well, I say simple, but my favorite is David Allen's model called Getting Things Done. He's got a book. And the reason I said, well, not so simple, is because it wasn't the easiest read. I read the book a couple of times, but I love David Allen's Getting Things Done. And he's got a 5-step organization model. I don't know if anyone here has ever read David Allen's Getting Things Done. Share with me here if you have. But in his 5-step model, his 4th step, step number 4, is what's called a weekly review meeting. And this has been such sanity for me. I do them on Monday mornings from 9 to 11. And I call them my sanity meetings, or you can call them their get ready for vacation meetings. You know how you're getting ready for a vacation, you're going to go on a week-long vacation? Don't you bust it right before you are going on vacation, right? You get things organized, you get things current, you get your emails down to 0, you renegotiate commitments, right? You figure out what needs to get done before vacation and what can wait till after. But it's a pretty intense thing, right? Because sometimes you only do these getting ready for vacation meetings once a year when you're getting ready for vacation. But imagine if you just did it weekly. You just got current in what was going on and caught up and feel on top of things just every single week. You find a day and time. Very high level, what I do is I look at my calendar. I'll look at my calendar from last week, just sort of look at the landscape of my calendar, and just by looking at that, I'll see, gosh, do I have any loose ends? Oh yeah, I met with Diane. I'd really love to send Diane a thank you card. So that goes on my to-do list. And then I'll look at my upcoming week and again get a really great landscape of that. And what do I need to do to be prepared? Do I need to move anything around? You know, oh look, great, Friday I'm going to be out and about at these networking meetings. What else can I do while I'm out and about? And then I get my emails down to 0, 0, 0, 0. Doesn't mean I've done all the work, but I've made decisions with every single email. I'll say, do I need to do anything with this email? Do I need to do anything? If so, what? And I'll get it in the right place. And then last but not least, I want to look at what David Allen calls your projects list. Now, each of my goals in my 3-month success plan is a project, right? Because there's multiple steps in there, multiple next actions. So I want to look at my list weekly, you know, my 4 to 6 goals, and just say, okay, now what? Now what? What can anything to do this week to move this goal forward? You know, what am I going to do and when am I going to do it? And these become actions. So if you're not doing a weekly review meeting, for your sanity, even if you don't read David Allen's Getting Things Done, and you simply install this habit, and it's a big habit, right? Because it first starts with you just figuring out a day and time that's going to work for you. That's huge. And then you just do it. Now this is blurry, and this is where it would have been great if I could use my pen, but it's not working right now. So let me just tell you what's going on here. This is a screenshot of a system that I use called IQTell. You see it on the top left, IQTELL.com. And this is my everything. It's in my clouds. It's in the clouds. And on the left-hand side, if you'll see, first it has email. So I've got 5 different email accounts. They all come into IQTell, so I'm not checking them separately. And with IQTell being in the clouds, right, it's the same version on my phone. If I were to use your computer, right, it's all up to date. So it doesn't matter what computer or phone I'm using. Then I've got my calendar, which is linked to my phone. Then I've got actions, right? So my actions are all of my to-dos. And when I create a to-do, something I'm going to do, I put a due date. And a due date is not when it's due, it's actually when I'm going to work on it. And then I've got my projects list, right? So my projects list there'll be a project listed. Each goal will be listed as a project. So again, I quickly look at my projects list and I'll say, okay, now what? Are there any to-dos or actions, next actions is David Allen's terminology, any next actions to do to move this goal forward? So when I took this screenshot, if you look at the very top where it says due today and there was 8 things, those were, if you looked at my total actions list on the left-hand side of my total to-do list, there was probably like 60 things, because these are things that need to be done today, tomorrow, next week, 2 weeks from now. And I just put them all out there. Again, I put the due date of when I'm going to work on it. So up here where it says due today, I'll click on that, and those were 8 things that need to get done that day. And it's all there, and it's nice and handy, and that makes it super easy for me. And then, yep, so that's the main thing with this, which I love IQtel. But some people are not an electronic person, and that's okay. But the key thing is we want someplace handy that we have an all-inclusive list of next actions. That's where it's different than a to-do list. Normally a to-do list is a daily to-do list. My next actions list are all of my to-dos, again, that I don't want to forget. It's amazing how, like, if I clicked on due today and I saw the 8 things to do today, some of those things I would have forgot because it was something I realized, I told someone I would do last week. Thank goodness I'm not leaving it up to my memory. I get it down here. So we do want that. We want some place to store all of your to-dos that are easily accessible, and that when it's time for you to sit down to work, you're not like, oh, what do I do? So I get, I pick up Facebook and I get stuck in there for 2 hours. No, let's get done what you said you needed to do. And then again, projects. So some place, and this could be as simple as a manila folder. You can just have a projects folder, and you just have a sheet of paper, right? Maybe a separate sheet of paper for each goal in your 3-month success plan. And then from there, you just keep saying, okay, now what? Now what? Cross out the things you've done and add the new things. I mean, it doesn't need to be high tech. David Allen is actually more of a pen and paper type of person. But IQtel just works for me because I love the fact that I can work from wherever, or I can be in carpool line, for example, and just quickly on my phone have access to all of this, right? And check off my to-dos, maybe change dates on to-dos. So again, that's why I love something that's in the clouds. That's been super handy. So again, it's IQtel if you want to check it out, IQTELL.com. So the key thing then, remember what I said during my weekly review meeting, I want to look at my goals and say, okay, now what? Now what? What are things I can do to move things forward? So each week I create commitments, which are essentially some to-dos that I go a step further and I actually say, okay, when am I going to do these? Let me look at my calendar and let me pick a day and time that I'm actually going to do this. And that commitment is directly tied to moving one of my goals forward. Huge. So this is important, ladies. You may have seen this time matrix from Stephen Covey. Now, quadrant 1 and 3, quadrant 1 is where something is, it's important to get done and it's urgent. It needs to get done ASAP, right? So those are like putting out fires, responding to a client where you need to respond to them right away. Now, quadrant 3 is where we spend more time than necessary. This is where it's not even important, but it seems urgent. It's other people's crisis. Like a phone ringing doesn't mean it's urgent. It seems urgent because it's ringing or you get new email, right? But a lot of times that's not important. A lot of times doesn't need to be done this moment. And it's not moving your agenda forward. And it's just getting us sidetracked, right? So we don't need to be checking email all the time, right? Just a couple of times a day. I'm fine with letting my phone go to voicemail and then me listening to it and determine, is this urgent or not? Or is it something I could do tomorrow or later, after I finish my blog post? Now, if we could just spend more time where the big star is in quadrant 2. But the struggle here, because this is stuff that's super important. These are your goals. This is your 3-month success plan. This is working your marketing plan. Those types of things. But you know what? They're not urgent. So unfortunately, we spend way too much time in quadrant 1 and 3, and I can tell you that quadrant 1 would get smaller, those things that need to get done ASAP, if we planned a little bit better, right? So we want to spend less time in quadrant 1 and 3 and spend more time in quadrant 2. And again, why it's difficult is, for example, like I said, I send an email out every Thursday to my newsletter list. It's important. It's a keep in touch strategy. It's part of my sales and marketing funnel. But I can tell you if I did not send it out, it's not like I'm going to have clients calling me up being like, Claire, I can't believe you didn't send out the newsletter, or I can't believe you didn't post 3 times on Facebook today. They're not going to be saying that. It's not urgent. So what do? We may be tempted to put those things on the back burner and instead focus more on quadrants 1 and 3 or even quadrant 4, just surfing the web, playing an online game. So you really want to spend more time in quadrant 2. So you can imagine that if you can just get in the habit of every week looking at your goals and saying, okay, now what? Now what? What are some of the next things I could do to move this forward? And then each week taking that a step further and creating even some commitments and putting them on your calendar, blocking out a day and time to work on something that's directly aligned with bringing your 3-month success plan to fruition. So that's huge. So that's how we use our priorities to consistently guide our work each week. And last but not least, I'm just seeing if there's any questions with that. Last but not least, tired or treadmill Terry, she's feeling like this because she doesn't have a place to store all of her creative ideas that are popping up. So we want to have some way to do that, right? Because the creative ideas are going to keep coming, and we want them to. That's wonderful, ladies. And we want to be able to capture these ideas, right, though? Get them off of our minds. And then we want to have them handy when we're ready for the next 90 days. So there's different ways that you can do this. Here's a blurry screenshot again of the same system that I use, IQTel. There's a category, this is what David Allen calls too, as your someday category. So these are things that they're not an action. I don't have to do it, but someday maybe I would like to do it. That's where I store my ideas. And IQTel makes it really easy for me to do that. They've got like this web clipper, so if I'm in something totally unrelated, and I see a great idea, I can just clip the web and it sends it directly to my IQTel into my someday category, which is wonderful. So I get the idea off of my mind and I get back to doing what I was doing, right? My agenda, moving my agenda forward, moving my 3-month success plan forward. But again, it could be something very simple. It can be, again, a simple manila folder. You know, you've got index cards. As you've got these ideas, jot it on an index card. Throw it into your creative ideas folder. Or it can be an Excel spreadsheet. Or you can have, you know, another capture tool like Evernote. I don't know if ever you've used Evernote. Evernote's great for a capture tool. Evernote actually also feeds into IQTel. So there's a section on the left-hand side that I could have added if I used Evernote. I don't use Evernote anymore. I used to use it as a capture tool, a great way to get ideas off of your mind, but IQTel has just sort of surpassed it for me. But Evernote's wonderful, wonderful. So again, instead of being treadmill Terry, right, be peaceful Paula, productive Paula. She knows where she's going, and every 3 months she creates a plan for herself. And then every week she looks at her plan and she says, now what? Now what? What can I do to move this forward? And she's got a place and a system to keep these creative ideas and doesn't get mad at herself when she has the creative ideas. She pats herself on the back that she has these creative ideas. But she's also going to know that she doesn't want to get sidetracked because she knows the way to get to the end of the bridge is to work her 3-month success plan. And these great ideas, you know what's amazing too, sometimes what I see sometimes is when I go to create a new 3-month success plan and I look at these quote unquote brilliant ideas that I had throughout the prior 3 months, I'm like, looking at them again, I'm like, I don't even want to do that anymore. That's not as good of an idea as I thought. You know, I'm so glad it didn't get me sidetracked in the moment. So ladies, I have confidence in you, like we said at the beginning of the webinar, that you truly can be different. You don't have to be treadmill Terry, who's running, but not really getting anywhere. I have confidence that you can get more done in 3 months than most women, businesswomen, do in an entire year, right? So first it starts with planning. Sit down and create your year success vision. Figure out what's going to be on your plate. And it's okay. It's only half of the year. That's okay. Do it now. And then just create 4 to 6 business, ask yourself those 3 questions that I asked, those 3 questions for every 3 months that I ask myself, and then just create about 4 to 6 business goals or priorities. And then just execute them. Find some type of accountability. Find some type of organization system that works for you. Maybe you want to check out Getting Things Done by David Allen. Find a tool. Are you a pen and paper, or is there an online web tool like IQTel? Just find something, and it's truly the differentiating factor, just planning and executing. You can go from overwhelmed to peaceful, productive Paula. And I'm here to help as well. I wanted to let you know about an accountability club that I have, which is perfect for women who are like, if I just help me create a plan and keep me accountable, help me make this plan a done deal. So it's only for women who are really ready to work their businesses in the next 90 days. And I maxed out each club at 20 women. So I opened up a new club. I've got 10 women in it so far. So there's only room for 10 more women. But what you do with the Accountability Club is when you join it, you can join it at any time until we max it out at 20, and then the club will be closed. But when you join, you're going to get instant access to the Training Vault, because this is not about training. All the training is going to be there that you can watch if you choose, but it's really about your 3-month success plan, because you and I would have a private 90-minute phone strategy session. We're going to figure out the right goals for you. We're going to create your 3-month success plan. And your 90-day clock of support does not start until we actually have your plan. It's done, and you start working your plan. And then every week I'm going to check in with you. How's it going? What are you going to do this week? And then as a group, the 20 of us will get on. It's not necessary, but I mean it's not required, but we've got a group webinar. I open up my Mondays from 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time, open up to a webinar. Sometimes I do a little bit of training, so that I want to see where you're stuck. And then most importantly, you and I would have the opportunity to talk on the phone one-on-one every other week. Let's look at your plan. How are you doing? Where are you stuck? So it's all about creating your success plan and then making that a done deal. We've got a really super active Facebook group as well, which is great with the other women. And so join us. I'll send out the link to this with the recording, but you can even go to my website, claireluffman.com, and you'll see the Accountability Club is one of the tabs. So again, this is perfect for someone who's like, help me create a success plan. Help me figure out what is most necessary for me to move my business forward and hold me accountable. But some of you might be more one-on-one type of people. And my forte, my passion, is this fast-track mentoring, where we create the whole kit and caboodle in your business. We get the whole entire sales and marketing funnel up and running. So let's talk. Let's talk even if you might not be sure which program would be best for you, or maybe it's not the right time for you to do a program or to work with someone. I love to talk. There's no greater joy than when I get to hop on the phone with another businesswoman, figure out how she's doing, how to get her where she wants to go, encourage you, motivate you, give you some tips. So you can go to talkwithclaire.com. I encourage you to do that. Let's hop on the phone. Let's talk about where you're at in your business, where you want to go, and what it will take to get you there. So go to talkwithclaire.com. And ladies, I just appreciate your time. I hope you guys have a great, great day. When I send out the recording, if you have any questions that you thought of, just simply reply. I'm here to help. And you guys have a good one. Bye.